Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while. It's been a long time. It's been about, I want to say like 6 months since I last uploaded a video talking about my most anticipated films of the year. And on that list were indeed Barbie and Oppenheimer. Barbie a little higher up than Oppenheimer, but the day is here. It's Barbenheimer Day. The day I'm recording this actually is technically Barbenheimer Day, 7/21/23. Although I had my Barbenheimer last night, 7/20/23. It really is a day to remember. Anyways, I've spent the last week rewatching some films from these two filmmakers. Actually, just newly watching some Nolan films. Lady Bird is a fantastic film. So is Little Women. And Christopher Nolan, while I'm not as crazy about him as a lot of other people are, certainly has his merits. I think The Dark Knight is great. I think Inception is actually my favorite film from him, and I think Tenet is quite a bit overhated, but that's just a little bit about how I feel about these two directors going in. I think they're obviously amazing, but nothing could have prepared anyone for Barbenheimer. Not even me, because I went in with weird expectations. There's so much hype surrounding this event. I was really excited, but there was obviously a lot of critical reviews from people that I generally trust and read that I was reading that kind of got me a little worried, but I think it's safe to say Barbenheimer was a massive, absolutely massive success, and I hope that reflects in the box office numbers. But so I saw Oppenheimer first, and then I saw Barbie, but considering the name of this whole thing is Barbenheimer, I'm going to review Barbie first, and then I'm going to review Oppenheimer. Should also mention real quick, after this, I plan to do another video. Hopefully this maybe jumpstart something. I want to do a video reflecting on my top 10 most anticipated of the year, because I've seen a couple of those. I've seen Beau is Afraid, I've seen Asteroid City, right? I want to reflect on those and how I felt about them, and also sort of talk about my other disappointments and my other loves of the year, because on this channel, I've noticed so far, I mainly talk about movies I love, and that's just more fun to do overall, but there's also quite a few movies I don't love, and I think I'd like to reflect that on the channel, not just on my letterbox, which you should absolutely follow, by the way, if you're not already. But yeah, so I think we're just going to start talking about Barbie, which as I'm sure most people know, Barbie, this film follows stereotypical Barbie, or Margot Robbie, as she realizes that she is not, things aren't working. Things in Barbie Land just aren't working anymore, and so she has to travel to the real world to find out what's going wrong. Hilarious setup, very much meta, and sort of, in a way, the way that this plays out is very Truman Showy. I think that also kind of shows in the production design too, which, by the way, first major point I should make here is that the production design in Barbie is fantastic. I mean, we've all seen the trailers, right? It really does look so interesting. It's very sophisticated. It's so perfect. Obviously perfect. It was made to look perfect. It was made to look extremely appealing, and that is what the Barbie brand is, I guess, and that is what it looks like here. Just an extremely appealing, vibrant world. It looks beautiful. The colors, I mean, it's mostly pink, but several different hues of that, and it's such a great world. And so I think one of the concerns going in was how that Barbie world would feel and look in comparison to the real world. And I'll admit, the real world in Barbie is definitely a visual downgrade, but we're not spending too long in the real world. I'd say we only spend about 20 minutes, maybe going on 20 minutes in the real world. And so I even think there are scenes in the real world that look really, really good. A lot of those scenes are unfortunately kind of spoilery, but once you see them, you'll kind of understand. It's playing on some Beau is Afraid type stuff, with just like the way it's playing with space in one of these scenes, and it's very cool. I like that a lot. But no, I mean, this is a very vibrant, very good-looking film. I think they've outdone themselves on that part. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is story, I guess, just and how the story played out, and how a lot of the themes and Greta's themes, we all have a good idea of what Greta likes to say in her movies, but I think that was a big question mark coming into this film, is how she would handle her very adult themes in Barbie. And I mean, the thing is, this is such a on the face, this is very in your face as far as thematic messaging goes, and that actually kind of surprised me. While I was watching the film, it kind of worried me, right? This is a film that has a very feminist message, that has a message about ideas and what our ideas mean and what they become. You know, for a few moments, I was thinking, maybe this should be more subtle. Maybe this doesn't have to be so in your face, because to some people that's going to turn them off and that's going to be really annoying. I mean, it wasn't annoying to me, but I just kind of felt like, you know, maybe you could approach the subject with a degree of subtlety. But then the film wraps itself up, and I kind of think on it afterwards. I don't think there was any other way Gerwig could have done it, because she's making, imagine, you know, you're in her shoes, right? She's making a huge blockbuster movie about Barbies, and knowing the thematic material she is capable of, it kind of makes sense. You have to be so open with your messaging to such a large audience. You have to do that. It's important that you do that, because you don't want things to, I guess, fly over people's heads. So I actually kind of ended up appreciating just how in your face it was with just the patriarchy and with ideas. It was really kind of cool. I really appreciated the way that she took it, even though while I was watching it, I was kind of concerned. Now, one character who plays a really big role in establishing themes of femininity and patriarchy is American Ferrera, who is a mother of a little girl who you know, is kind of disassociated with Barbie over time, and has kind of seen Barbie's role in the world as negative. This is actually one of my only negatives with the movie overall, and this is a big one. I'll probably make a timestamp here just to talk about this. I actually think America Ferrera's character, as integral to the spirit of Barbie as she is, I really think she deserved a lot more screen time and a lot more depth, because a lot of the depth that we get from her character is concentrated in 2 or so montages that sort of look at this woman and her life leading up to now, where she's not in a good position. But I really think they could have done more to expand on that, and they could have done more to tie that in to Barbie's ultimate emotional climax, which, by the way, that emotional climax is incredible. I really didn't expect this to be as emotional as it was. I mean, reason being, if you just look at the property Barbie, and you know, even though Gerwig, who is an emotional director, is attached to this project, you don't immediately think that this is going to be as emotional as something like Lady Bird, but it certainly is up there. Barbie really caught me by surprise with just how emotional it was and how meaningful it was, in terms of human ideas and creativity, and how they are able to really transcend our abilities as humans, our lifetimes, and take on meaning and cultural relevance. It was really mind-blowing kind of how she was able to convey those themes. I gotta mention Ryan Gosling as Ken, who is absolutely incredible here. I think most people already knew that, but seriously, the I'm Just Ken music part is one of the best parts of the film. It's extremely funny. Ryan Gosling has this charisma and awkward energy to him that is just amazing, and he really helps to flesh out the comedic aspects of the film, which, by the way, speaking of thematic stuff and the comedy in this film, I mean, there's a whole section involving tactics, involving mansplaining, which I just think I'm thinking about it right now, and I want to laugh, because the way that it was used was very relevant, I think, to the way that women feel about other men and how they just go on and on and on and on. That's a glorious part of the film. But yeah, so again, my one complaint with Barbie really is just the American Ferrera character. I really think they could have done more with her, but besides that, Barbie really exceeded a lot of my expectations. Some of the criticisms I heard of Barbie that I really don't agree with. I don't think the comedy, some people had said that, you know, it doesn't land all that it wants to, comedy-wise. And, like, yeah, there's a few jokes here and there that, you know, maybe are intended to land a certain way and they don't. But for the most part, I say 80, 85, 90% of the jokes in this film absolutely do land. I mean, just based off my preview night audience alone, it was a very rowdy room during a lot of parts. It's a funny film. Also, I really don't think there's any other character here that needed more depth or more time. Some people think that other characters did. I really can't think of any that maybe needed more depth. Will Ferrell's character as the Mattel CEO, he's kind of just there, but I think that's funny, and I think that's kind of the intention. And then just, yeah, it's really just American Ferrera's character that I think needed more depth, but overall, Barbie is pretty stunning. And definitely one of my favorite films of the year. So now we get to the Oppenheimer portion of the review. Oppenheimer's the one I saw first. I saw it in IMAX, not 70mm IMAX. I would have adored. I've actually never seen a film on film, I don't think, which really sucks, but that, I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, let's talk about Oppenheimer, because Oppenheimer is quite a bit different, actually, from Christopher Nolan's other films. For me personally, when I'm talking about Christopher Nolan and what I appreciate about Nolan, usually it's his hijinks with time and memory. So, for example, I think I already said at the beginning of this video, Inception is my favorite Nolan film. Reason being, there's so many layers to just how this science fiction apparatus works, and there's obviously an emotional core that reveals itself and has a really big effect on you at the end of the movie. And it's also very action-packed. I think Nolan has gotten really good at directing action. That's also why I love Tenet. I know most people aren't a big fan of Tenet, but thinking back to when I saw it in 2020, Tenet I just really felt in a way that I feel like not everyone did. There's obvious things to be upset about there. I mean, the sound design is not good, but for some reason I just really wasn't focused on that while watching Tenet. And I think that if you go into it just not trying to understand every piece of dialogue, it actually works quite a bit better than you'd expect it to. But nonetheless, so because of that, Oppenheimer wasn't really poised to be something I really enjoy. Just because it was kind of playing more into the dramatic side of Nolan, the more grounded dramatic side. I feel like The Dark Knight was sort of grounded in a lot of ways, in that it felt very real with these sort of political concepts and ethical concepts that it was tackling, which, while I certainly appreciated, I feel like Nolan isn't as good with that. It doesn't manage to make me care as much with something like that. But I will tell you, first off the bat, Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer is amazing. And I think Nolan's script is so good because he's been able to bring these scientists and these senators and these commissioners to life in a way that, I don't know, I just feel like I cared about some of them. But especially Oppenheimer, just because, I mean, this is his experience. But he has a lot of charm. You know, he has so much charisma, and Oppenheimer is legitimately, he's funny, right? He's not as funny as Matt Damon's character, which, by the way, Matt Damon's character does play a pretty big comedic role, which is really greatly appreciated. But he also serves to be a very serious point of contention in Oppenheimer's life, just kind of this, I don't know, just this like dragon of the United States military sort of breathing down his neck during the process of World War II and wanting this bomb to be made. But yeah, Oppenheimer just has so much personality, and I think that's what I really appreciated. I also really appreciated just how big a role Albert Einstein plays in this film. I mean, he's not in it like an incredible amount, but the scenes with Einstein are incredibly meaningful, and I was really surprised with how he used that appearance. I also should obviously talk about Strauss, which is Robert Downey Jr.'s character. It's kind of interesting because that character, for the first hour, you kind of don't really understand his purpose. I mean, you get inklings of it, but it's like he's not fully there yet. But in the last hour of the film, when his role really comes to shine, and you get a sense of how like deeply it contrasts with Oppenheimer, it makes for a really entertaining watch as he gets angry, as he does certain things to Oppenheimer, and I think that Robert Downey Jr. has lended an immense amount of talent to that role. It really is fun seeing him in something other than Iron Man, which is what I've been used to up to this point. I mean, I think there are a few films where I've seen him in other roles, but I mean, he really shines here. It's kind of unbelievable. And then this ensemble, just overall, is an incredible ensemble. Florence Pugh, Jack Quaid, I mean, Matt Damon, as I mentioned. There's a whole bunch of names I could list off. Devin Bostick, Roderick. Oh my God, Roderick's in this film. Yeah, it's just a really incredible ensemble cast, and I feel like everyone has kind of their purpose. I should also mention Emily Blunt, who has one of the best scenes in the film. I was really impressed with the ensemble. I think it's the best ensemble this year. Asteroid City might be in the running for some people, but personally, I think here it has it fairly beat. So yeah, let's just go on and talk about the visuals. Why not, right? This is a very visual film, obviously. Nolan has made it a point to film this in IMAX. I think they had a special type of film developed, black and white film for IMAX. Yeah, this film is a absolute visual feast. It's all worth it for the explosion scenes, but there's other stuff too that I think is just really visually interesting. Nolan is pulling a lot from Terrence Malick's like Tree of Life film, which I've seen a little bit of, and just the way that it uses cosmic imagery to sort of represent characters and feelings and emotions. He uses that here in Oppenheimer, especially towards the first kind of half of the film. And it's absolutely gorgeous, whether you're looking into space or looking at atoms and just stuff on a microscopic level. It's pretty great. But also the explosion, the Trinity test, which has been the center of, I think, the trailers for this film, is absolutely as amazing as, you could ever imagine it being. Being in a room full of hundreds of people watching that unfold, there's really nothing else like that. Especially when you understand how time works, how light will travel faster than sound. It's just, there's something about the way that scene works that is so effective. And it's also kind of unexpected, because you see a boom and you expect it to hit immediately, but it's not even that. But I hope you experience that for yourself and you understand what I'm talking about there. Okay, now I want to get into talking about sound, because, you have the visuals here. Nolan usually does deliver on sound, even though I did mention Tenet earlier and Tenet's sound design flaws. But what about here? So this actually gets into something that might be a flaw for some people. While I was watching it, I was thinking about it, and I was like, maybe they should change this, but I actually came around on it by the end of the film. So this movie has a score, obviously, but this score plays for 95% of the film. And it is a very heavy, it's a great score, but it is on constantly. Even in most dialogue scenes where you really wouldn't expect there to be music, where there's not really exactly tension in the dialogue either, there's music, which I think is a really interesting choice. It kind of bothered me at first, because I kind of was of the mindset, maybe you reserve music for impact, and maybe it's not going to have as much impact here. But I think the thing is, the way that Nolan uses sound in this movie, and why I think it works, is because it's always there to add tension to any moment. And yeah, a lot of these dialogue bits, like on their own, are so full of tension. But when you add the music, and when you kind of understand what this is all part of, and that being a lead up to one of the worst atrocities in human history, you kind of feel a little bit more. You kind of really get involved, actually. I think the music played a really good role in just getting me so involved and invested in this story. And so as it swells and swells and swells, when you get to moments of climax, when you get to huge moments, it just bursts to life. It absolutely, shatters eardrums, I guess. And I think because of the swelling of sorts, this sort of up and down, I actually think the rhythm is really good. I think it really works well for this film. I was thinking it might be a flaw. I was thinking maybe the music should be reserved, but no, I think the music is actually plenty reserved when it needs to be. So that's Oppenheimer. Thinking of a conclusion to how I feel about Oppenheimer is hard, because I came out of the film thinking it's a complete masterpiece, if I'm being honest. But I don't know, because I don't know. I love Inception, right? And I adore Oppenheimer. I feel like I need to see it one more time to really know if it cements itself as the amazing masterpiece that I thought it was. But so far, I can't really think of any flaws. The only thing that might be a valid criticism is Nolan's use of female characters. God damn it. Yeah, Kitty and Jean Tatlock, the two major female characters played by Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh, they don't get as much screen time as one may want. They don't get as much narrative attention as one may want. But to be fair, there are moments here where those two really shine in, I think, really important ways. They really are there to reflect on Oppenheimer, but they do so in meaningful ways. It's just not as consistent as some people might want that to be. But again, Emily Blunt has a pretty show-stopping scene, and Florence Pugh's character and the way that served to sort of highlight Oppenheimer just as a troubled man overall, and also the way that relationship kind of works itself into the storyline, I think was pretty expertly done. It's just a matter of, I think other people's mileage might vary as far as how they feel about the female characters in this film, but I honestly think it was quite a bit better than a lot of his other films as far as female characters go, and their relationship, their importance, absolute importance to what happens in the story. It's just that they don't get as much screen time as some may want. So, yeah. Alright guys, so that is the Barbie Oppenheimer review. Before I go, I want to give some final thoughts on both of these films. I'm going to compare them, right? I don't really know how you're supposed to compare two films that are very, very different from each other. Although they might share a little bit of similarity, there actually is kind of a unifying theme of our creations outliving us and doing things we didn't expect them to. There's kind of a bit of a thread there, but I'm not going to go into that. Yeah, I honestly think Oppenheimer is a little bit better. I think at this moment, I have to go see these films again, and I am seeing Barbie again for sure. I do want to get tickets to Oppenheimer again. I don't know, I guess Oppenheimer's a bit more controlled in a way where I can't really find a major fault with it quite the way that I can Barbie. I guess that is kind of my conclusion here. I didn't really expect to say Oppenheimer was better either, because, Christopher Nolan, I think, is not really on my top 10 list of favorite directors, where I think Gerwig kind of is at this point. But yeah, so one last thing I'll say, I do plan on doing a video where I follow up the top 10 most anticipated of the year list and kind of go back through some of what I've seen, and I really do want to comment on some of the disappointments of this year, because there's been a few disappointments of the year so far. And again, like I mentioned, this channel has been very positive so far. This hasn't really been the attention. I get really passionate talking about the films that I adore more than I do the films that were disappointments or that I didn't like. But I certainly will kind of touch on that when I make that video, so be on the lookout for that. But otherwise, just like, subscribe, go watch Barbenheimer. I mean, we gotta support this. This is a huge moment for cinema at a time where I feel like cinema really needs to have big, good moments in wake of just the strike and just everything else that's going on. So yeah, see you guys later.